Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Alright, one of my favorite topics. Let's see what you got. What's your favorite urban legend? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Gloria Ramirez, aka the Toxic Lady, a woman comes into the emergency room with late-stage cervical cancer. Several people who treated her ended up getting sick with dizziness, nausea, vomiting, muscle spasms, and several people fainted. One nurse took a blood sample and said the blood had a weird smell and there were odd white flecks in it. They also reported Gloria had a garlic-like smell to her. So many people became sick around her they ended up evacuating the entire hospital. 5 people who treated her ended up needing to be hospitalized themselves, with one having to stay in the ICU for 2 weeks. A couple theories have been put forth about this case. One is that was just mass hysteria. I don't really believe it though. Would mass hysteria cause people to be hospitalized? One person developed hepatitis and avascular necrosis in her knee joint. Another is that Gloria was treating herself with DMSO, which was used as a kind of home remedy for pain. It's thought that DMSO could combine with the supplemental oxygen they gave, and the electrical charges from defibrillation could have caused it to form into a toxic compound. But I don't think this has ever been proven. Being in the medical field myself, this case has always been interesting to me. Something happened, but what? After my mom died, I looked through her cell phone and there was a text from an unsaved number, basically sounding like a long-lost lover desperately needing to reunite. Mom was married 20 years to my stepdad with not even a hint of infidelity. A few years later, I told my aunt what I found, and she said supposedly before passing, she had mentioned running into an old flame. Super out of character, but I guess I kinda hope it was true, since that's a really exciting thing, and she was really sick, so hopefully it brought her some joy. I know it's broad, but I'd want to know what language prehistoric people spoke. The closest we have are reconstructed proto-languages, the most famous example of which is Proto-Indo-European, but those are limited to language families with multiple well-attested members. Sumerian, for instance, is very well attested, but we know next to nothing about where the Shmelik came from because it apparently shares no common ancestor with any other language known to scholarship. Knowing the character of and the relationship between long-extinct languages would be a dream come true. The disappearance of Lars Matank, German man vacationing in Bulgaria with some friends, got in a fight with them over an argument, causing him to get injured, and because of it was advised not to fly home, which they were going to do the following day. Friends offered to stay with him, but he insisted he was fine. He stayed in a hotel for a day and was seen displaying very erratic and paranoid behavior, and eventually called his mom, claiming that 4 men were trying to kill him. Eventually made it to the airport to fly home, but out of nowhere, he dropped his bag and ran outside through a field and into a forest. He's not been seen since then, which was 4.5 years ago. I've now read about Lars a couple times over the 2 years narrating here, and I watched a couple videos on it. Very odd story. What do you guys think? What happened in my life that I don't know about? I found out as an adult that I had a cousin I never knew existed. I grew up with no cousins. Mom was an only child. Dad had one sister who never had kids. Turns out that my aunt hid pregnancy from everyone and gave her baby up for adoption. Even my dad had no clue. My cousin eventually looked for her birth mother, which is how we found out. What else is there that I don't know? I have knowledge like this about someone else. I know that when my mom was with her high school college boyfriend, he cheated on her and got the other girl pregnant. He broke up with my mom and married the other woman because it was the right thing to do. What he didn't know was that my mom was also pregnant. She never told him and had an abortion. I wonder if he would have done the same thing if he had known. My mom would have definitely forgiven him and stayed with him. Then she would have never met my dad and I wouldn't be here. I remember a Saturday Night Live skit ages ago where someone was allowed to get the answers to any question they wanted. The person asked, "What's the thing I don't know about my life that would blow my mind the most?" The angel, or whatever it was, said they couldn't tell them because it would literally kill them. So the person said, "Okay, what's the 400th thing on the list of things that would blow my mind?" And the angel told him, "That's the thing I want to know. The thing I don't even know to ask about." Some I've heard when I was a child. Old woman was being abused by her family. One of them killed her and they threw her body into the sea. Her spirit came back and drowned all her relatives, and she wanders the beach looking for abusive people and drowns them. Human-faced dogs, a rich but corrupt family, were moved out of their mansion and ran to their hideout in the mountains. They only carried food and their prized dogs. They lived in the mountains until they all died. Rumors were that they bred the dogs for meat and may have had sexual relations with them. A group went to their hideout because of rumors that they had hidden gold. The group got there, and all they saw were dogs, all deformed, and they saw the biggest one who was sitting in the living room. It was hairless and had a human-like face. It saw them and gave off a loud laugh. The group ran away in fear, and the dogs chased them, yelling obscenities along the way. There's a bridge with a river beneath. Rumors were that a corrupt officer killed the child of a woman he fancied, but she didn't like him. He was only going to scare the kid by throwing him off the bridge into the water, but he didn't notice that the river was shallow and had a lot of rocks. Kid hit his head and died. The mother heard of what happened and in her despair tried to kill the officer who shot her. The officer died a few days later, in his bed. He was wet. Kuchisake Onna from Japanese mythology. Basically, she wears a face mask and goes around asking if you think she's beautiful, and if you say no, she kills you. But if you say yes, she removes her mask, revealing a scar that cuts through her cheek from ear to ear, and then she repeats the question. If you say no, you die. And if you say yes, then she slits your mouth to look like hers. You can buy time if you say she's only average, or if you ask if you're beautiful. Not sure this is really an urban legend, but I'll retell it as I remember it. There was a teenage girl who was very insecure about her looks. One day she found some magical skincare process that involved taking a bath with some seeds of some type. Her mother noticed that she was in the bath for a very long time, so she asks her daughter what is going on. The daughter tells her to go away and that nothing is wrong. Eventually the mother gets the door open to find the daughter pulling out seeds that were rooted into her skin one by one. It's been a while since I heard this story, so I probably got some details wrong. Does it count as an urban legend if it's the myth and folklore of my country? If so, then I have a few to share. I'm from Panama, a Caribbean country, and we have so many. 1. Perro Prieto or Cadejo. The Perro Prieto, literally black dog, is the black dog that is said to be the devil itself. His eyes are as red as burning coals, and he has horrible fangs coming out of his mouth, giving off a strong smell of sulfur. He appears to people at night chasing them, and so sorry for them if he catches them, for their fate will be uncertain. Op note, although others exist, offer extra information like this one. Preferably, it only appears to womanizers or drunken men who are out partying or in the bars. They have forms of attacking, since this entity is usually attributed with very evil powers. One version indicates that it devours them, others that it takes their soul, or, in other more extreme versions, it drags you directly to hell itself. In addition, it is said that despite being a demonic manifestation, it is sometimes considered a protector, since he takes care of his type of people until they get home safe and sound. I read a few years ago in a Panamanian forum that someone was walking late at night when one of those dogs appeared next to them. The more the man walked, the bigger the dog appeared. He said that he prayed to Holy Mary and it went away. They are also said to escort lonely women to their houses late at night. I've read that somewhere. Funny enough, I've seen a post on these subreddits of people in the States narrating the experiences of weird smells and red-eyed black dogs appearing out of nowhere. So it seems like Cadejo are not exclusive from Panama and have appeared in the States. Number 2. Witches. Brujas have always been part of Panamanian folklore, seen as malicious evil beings who do black magic. Do you hear steps in your house roof late at night? A bruja has astral protected to your now cursed house. You want to meet her if you think you're being cursed by one? Invite them to drink coffee at your place. No, really. This is something widely known across the country. Here's an excerpt that I found. Witches are women who sold their souls to the devil in exchange for certain powers. They are women you know in the daytime, but at night, they like to suck the navels of newborn unbaptized children. Some just play with them and only they can see them. One of the strange customs of the witches is to comb the tails of other people's horses in the form of braids. If you're out in the countryside at night and hear a whistling sound that seems to envelop everything, there is a witch lurking nearby. Operator note, yeah, Listening to whistling at night in the countryside is a no-no. Also, do not look outside your windows, please. For those with real courage, there are some tricks to unmask these women of the devil. To catch a witch, you must stick a dagger in the shape of a cross between her hair and the ground, so she can't move, and the next morning you can see who she is. Another way, they say, if at night you hear the witch's whistle, you have to invite her out loud to have a cup of coffee at your house. The next morning, the first woman who comes to your house to ask for coffee, that's the witch. If these start as cautionary tales to help, put fear in the ne'er-do-well's mind, then they move to the home in the countryside and parents use them as tools to help kids go to sleep, whatever it takes. I'm from Spain, and we really have a lot of urban legends. 1. El Hombre del Saco. The boogeyman, it's a pretty well-known legend that our parents taught to us when we were little. The boogeyman is a man that chases, captures, and kills every kid that's lost at night. I remember my grandma telling me and my brother that story every night. 2. La Dama Blanca. The White Lady is also one of the most common known legends here in Spain. She only appears at night and doesn't do nothing, just stares at you. If you see her while driving at night or walking late at night means that someone, perhaps someone you know, if not you, will die the day after seeing her. 3. That's probably the darkest that we have. There was a man with a beautiful daughter named Cassandra who was the joy of the town. She was charming, but little the people knew her father was abusive to her, hitting her repeatedly with a chain. One day a man came to town and both fell in love with each other. Her father was jealous of the man, so one night he decided to kill them. He left unconscious the man with the chain and later hanged him from a cliff. He then raped his daughter to death while he drowned her head in the water of a nearby lake. Some people say some nights they can hear the two lovely laugh hysterically and the sound of the chain. Hell, this is going to be a long story, but it's a common urban legend in any part of my country. It's called the Kuntilanak. The story starts that there's a woman back in the ancient kingdoms era. The woman was beautiful and was married and was pregnant, although one day she was either kidnapped or raped or became a casualty of war. She died while still being pregnant along with her unborn child. Now the spirit roams the living land either to hunt down people who are responsible or finding a child to call her own. You see, in every island, in every province of Indonesia, the stories are different. They're said that the woman was a courtesan and was murdered by her lover, a witch living in the woods alone and was figuring out black magic on her own, a sacrifice or tribal ritual of which her body was never found. But they always appear as a woman with a disfigured human features, with her trademark crying, giggling in the middle of the night. The legend of Slimmy. Not slimy, as in slime, but Slimmy as in slim. Slimmy is a man of unknown age, origin, or purpose that travels to and from each small town in America. There is always one person in town that sees Slimmy do something completely absurd, just crazy and unbelievable. This person then becomes obsessed with what they saw, and they go crazy. That is why in every small town there is at least one crazy person. It's because they saw Slimmy. Shapeshifters, skinwalkers, or the Wendigo, as it's known, but you aren't supposed to say it out loud. Thanks, in our culture. That's a no-no, or it will hear its name and come for you. Which is why we always close curtains and never look out at night. Also, never whistle in the dark, or the northern lights, or the spirits will come to take you away. Inspired by You Mother Chuchi, here are a couple of legends from Panama I think they missed. There's a town called Veracruz that is located near the west bank of the canal but is rather isolated. There was a big US Air Force base next to it, but the town was still isolated and creepy. Now, stories I heard growing up is that the town was founded by witches that had been banished from the capital city and other places, so that helps the creepy ambiance. Anyways, there was always a legend of strange creatures and such roaming around the countryside outside of town, but I never believed it until an incident happened to some friends. So a few Americans did live in the hills outside of town since it was a beautiful area, and I had a friend whose parents had moved out there. One night, some friends were hanging at his place when a munchie run was in order. There was an abandoned road that led into the base, and the guy's parents were Air Force, so he could go back and forth, and so he and some of his other friends went to the base, got snacks at the shopette, and headed back. One girl lagged behind, but suddenly she screamed and went running past everyone else. Another friend turned around and was shocked by what he saw. There was something standing in the road. It was roughly 4 feet tall, albino, wearing shorts, and had long hair. Seems odd, but nothing scary, until it raised a hand that had claws instead of fingers. It then flashed a smile showing fangs instead of teeth, got down on all fours, and ran into the bushes off the road. Needless to say, they got back to the guy's house in record time. There is also La Tulivea, which is similar to Leona. Supposedly, she also walks along rivers and causes them to flow backwards. There's one coming to fruition in southwest Iowa. There has been the story of a serial killer in the Bluffs forever, and an article was just written that a man's daughter came forward. They may have as many as 70 victims in 2 wells. It's early in the investigation, but it is seemingly credible. She's been trying to bring attention to it since she was a kid. Not really an urban legend, more of a rural legend. Seems realistic though. The hills are rough terrain and close to Omaha, which has both I-29 and I-80. When I was a teenager, there was a common fear among us, the Smileys. They would be a group of people who were hanging out under bridges, and if you would bike there, they would throw you off your bike and ask you to ingest an ecstasy pill with a smiley face, and thereby you'd be drugged under pressure. If you refused, they would cut your mouth open to your ears, and you would wear a forever smile. It freaked us out to bike under the bridges when we were alone and in the dark, and we would take massive detours to avoid them. Never heard or read of any evidence for this though. Now I doubt people would give away free drugs to minors or commit such a heinous crime. It might have happened on separate occasions across the world, but I don't think there ever was a group of people who kept harassing kids in this way. Yeah. That's pretty wild. I feel like my town had something similar, but it wasn't bridges. It was like town parks, like little forests, so. Lake Temescal in the East Bay area of California in the 1970s. The rumor was that someone was killing people there. Not sure if they went missing from the area around Lake Temescal, but parts of their bodies, like their feet, were being found. Some of the body parts ended up in the lake itself, other parts in the surrounding parts of the park. This was supposedly happening in the 1960s and 70s. Growing up in Chicago, the urban legend of Homie the Clown driving around a white van killing kids was told in hushed tones in the playgrounds at recess. Sometimes it was a van full of clowns, and someone's brother always had a run-in with them and got away just in the nick of time. Homie don't play that.